Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. And I'd like to welcome all of our first-time visitors here. It is great to have you here. You're going to learn a lot here at Dadvice TV, and the more you know, the better you can manage life while you happen to have kidney disease. Now, tonight, we're kicking off March. It is March 1st, and March is not only National Kidney Month, it's also National Nutrition Month. And what we're going to do is a very special show. We're going to do a live Q&A with the renal dietitian. And you guys know who our renal dietitian is. Let me go ahead and bring her up here really quick. Go ahead and give a huge, giant welcome from PlantPoweredKidneys.com, Jen Hernandez. Hey, Jen.
Hey, James. Hey, everybody. It is March 1st, National Nutrition Month, National Kidney Month. It is our month. I am so excited to be here. I am so excited for this Q&A. I am ready to kick things off. But I know first, before we jump into all of that, just in case you are brand new here or brand new to seeing me here on Dadvice, my name is Jen. I am a renal dietitian. I'm a registered dietitian, also board certified in renal nutrition. I have spent the majority of my dietetic career helping people with chronic kidney disease from dialysis into early stages, stage 1, stage 2, all the way through stage 5, not on dialysis. So everywhere I have been working with people to help them protect their kidney function, help them feel really good, eat really well, and live a great life. We do this all at PlantPoweredKidneys.com, and we do have our incredible Facebook group. You can look us up on Facebook at just Plant Powered Kidneys, and we will be there. I was just going through it earlier this evening, looking through a lot of the great feeds and shares that we have in that community. It's always so inspiring and motivating, and I love that we have this incredible community.
And I'll tell you, if you have not joined the Plant Powered Kidneys Facebook group, if you have kidney disease, you definitely want to be a part of that group. What I love the most going through it is all the pictures of all the amazing meals that people are making, and they're sharing. Here's what I put in this meal. Here's where I got it. Here, this is low sodium, all sorts of great information so that eating doesn't become boring, because it could feel like you're limited, but really you're not. There's so much variety, and it's just about mixing things and all the colors. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I do too. It's really fun to watch. And we always, even for our weekly newsletters, if you sign up for our e-newsletters, we always include a few of the highlights from our Facebook group to show off some of those recipes. And we do a weekly Q&A thread in there. So we have a lot of resources, and we also tie that into people who join our email list and who get our weekly newsletters, which, just a little bit of a spoiler alert, now is a really good time to get on our email list, because we're going to be doing some good, we're going to have some good things coming up. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to do spoiler alerts, but we already sent one out earlier today, and we've got some more lined up for the month. I'm super, super excited.
Awesome. And when it comes to living a great life with kidney disease, it really does come down to education, learning about kidney disease, learning about nutrition, learning about how different foods and what's in them impact your health, and just living that healthy lifestyle lets you, what I like to say, kick kidney disease to the curb, get your energy back, and just love and live life.
That's absolutely it. The old thought used to be, once you learned about CKD, you just had to deal with it. You had to just kind of wait. There was a lot of this idea of, oh, come back and we'll take care of you when you get to dialysis. You'll have a dietitian when you get to dialysis. All of this stuff. Let's just wait until your kidneys fail. But that's no longer the case. There are plenty of resources and opportunities for people in earlier stages to jump in and make a difference with their kidney health. You do not have to wait. You can be proactive, and you can take care of things now so that you don't have to end up with kidney failure on dialysis. You can do things to help prevent that.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everyone. Today is a Q&A, so go ahead, just start putting your questions in there. I'll start going through them. Jen can also see them on her screen, And I'm going to kick things off, Jen, with kind of a softball question. What stage can a person start to benefit from learning how to eat healthier by working with a renal dietitian or any dietitian?
Well, it's going to be the stage that you find out. It's all the way, there are all different types of situations where people can learn about CKD. And as soon as you find out, no matter what stage you're at, that's the time to take action and take care of things. So, whether you find out that you have CKD in your stage 2 or your stage 5, you can still work with somebody to take action and make preventive changes to keep that residual kidney function. And in many cases, you can improve that kidney function. You can protect your kidneys so that they can do a better job taking care of you in return. So, whatever stage you find out, that's the time you really want to take action. And the way that I like to encourage this is as soon as there is a CKD diagnosis, very often in the medical offices, they'll start to give you those really ugly old handouts that are the list of foods to avoid or whatever. These very, yeah, we all
Yeah.
know. It's, you look at the bottom and it's copyright 1993. It's just bad. It's bad. So use that as your little, that's the crack in the door. That's your opportunity to say, well, if I should be making changes to my diet, I should probably see a dietitian, right? Do you know of a dietitian that I could work with? There you go. That is your entry. Your doctor can help find you a dietitian. If you know of a dietitian that you want to work with, you can reach out, connect with them, see about working with them, because it's not always mandatory that you have a doctor give you that referral. You can connect with a dietitian and they can help you with that process as well. So do your own research. You're your own health advocate to take that step. Ultimately, it's up to you though, because we are here to help. It's a matter of when you're ready to come work with us.
Yep. And I would say it is never too early to start
Mhm.
working with a dietitian because it's all good for you, your heart, your body, your future to learn about eating better. And most of us, even those with healthy kidneys, are not really eating that well. They're eating too much sodium, too much highly processed food, oh, the fast food. And that was me. Never too early to start working with one.
Mhm. And I do see a comment too about insurance coverage, which I would
Yes,
love to talk
Beverly.
really quickly. Yeah. We at PlantPowered Kidneys, we do not take insurance. We do a bit more of a concierge. We do a very full service type of nutrition support for our clients. We do things that are outside of nutrition, or I'm sorry, insurance parameters like meal planning, supplement reviews, even blood tests that we'll check. So we do things a little bit more comprehensively than the traditional health insurance model does. But I don't want that to stop you from finding somebody, so you can still contact your health insurance company and ask them to help you find a dietitian. We have an article on plantpoweredkidneys.com about insurance coverage for dietitians. We actually did a whole episode, I believe,
Yeah, right
James.
here
We
on
went through that
Dadvice
whole talk.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a whole, basically, it's a script I give you of the questions you want to ask your health insurance company and find out what kind of coverage you have. And they will help connect you with a dietitian. And it doesn't have to be a renal dietitian per se, although it's ideal if you can find one, that's great. But we are very, very few and far between in the grand scheme of all the dietitians available. But if you find a dietitian in your network, maybe they can help you with your blood sugar management. And that is a great place to start. So if you have type 2 diabetes and you're struggling to get your blood sugars under control and your CKD, focusing on blood sugars can be really helpful. And maybe you can find a dietitian who's really good at blood sugar management that you can work with first before diving more into the renal. Because trust me, taking care of those blood sugars are incredibly important. And again, I want you to find somebody in whatever context you can to get help and support and learn from.
Yeah, and my family doctor was great at helping me get a lot of sessions with my renal dietitian covered by my insurance by how he would code things. I'm overweight, so he was able to get me some sessions because I need to learn to eat better to lose weight. I was pre-diabetic, so he was able to code for that. So it's great to work with your doctor to see if they may be able to help code things and refer you to a dietitian for actual issues that you need to address or you like help addressing. Lots of options there.
Absolutely.
All righty. There was a couple questions here I already tagged. Great to see them all coming in. Let's see. There was, oh my God, I'm listed in the wrong order. Hold on one second here. Lots of questions. Chris says, I'm just going to bring these up. Let's see. His GFR is 90. That 90 is really, really high. And actually, at a 90, it's really,
It's
really
almost
high.
normal.
Yeah, it's not exactly 90 because you're so close to normal that it's not exact at that point. 35 years old, no diabetes or hypertension. Outstanding. Is that normal? What would you say to him? I mean, we kind of almost answered it.
Yeah, I mean, well, neither of us are doctors, so we can't say for sure what's going on because we don't have the whole story. And in fact, having just one lab test result isn't diagnostic in of itself. You have to have at least a few different lab test results that all confirm something is going on. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest. And then also talking with your doctor to find out exactly what is going on. Did your doctor talk to you about kidney function issues? Do you have a history of kidney function issues? Like, what is causing that thought process? Is there something indicated in your labs? And if so, what's that follow up? What is your doctor, what is your healthcare team doing to further identify that? But this is something to, I mean, this is awesome because I know there are a lot of people watching right now that are, they wish that they found out when their GFR was at like a 90 or so,
Oh, I
because that
wish.
is, yeah, that
Double
is an
digits. That would have been great for
opportunity.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great opportunity to be looking into what you can do. So we have, I mean, without going into like a ton of stuff, because there are a lot of different things to look at. Some of the things we talk about are making sure that you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. At Plant Powered Kidneys, we talk about a plant-based diet, which means the base, the foundation of your diet really is fruits and vegetables. At least half of your plate has fruits and vegetables. There's really no evidence of any concern about potassium when you have a higher kidney function like that. So more potassium, the better. That's going to be something that can be really kidney protective, helpful for your blood pressure, all kinds of things. And it is also very helpful to prevent the acid buildup, or we've talked about prowl before. More fruits and vegetables can be really helpful with that too. So this is a very typical and generic thing to say as a dietitian, but honestly, it stands so true. More fruits and vegetables are incredibly helpful. You really can't go wrong.
Yeah, I would use this. It's probably scary to get diagnosed and see, oh, my GFR is a 90. But as you learn more, you're going to be like, oh, shoo, this is like so rare to see any type of lower kidney function that early. To me, that's a great opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to look at my life and make sure I'm living healthy, that I'm exercising, taking care of myself, because it's good for everything. It's good for my future. That would be my way of jumping on it. If I could go back in time and find out way back then instead of 8. Now I'm just like, oh my goodness, when I think back at it, 8. Oh my. Now here's a great question, and this is perfect for you because of your experience in the past. Trina says, I'm starting PD. Does my diet change?
Oh, PD. So a big chunk of my dietetic career was in dialysis. And actually, my very first dialysis job, I primarily worked with my PD patients. And I love them. I love all of my patients. They're so good. But PD is just something there's really something special to it. And it's a really great type of modality. It's a type of dialysis offering to help with those who have kidney failure. And it is a life sustaining treatment. It is fantastic. So, really quickly, for those who don't know what PD is, it stands for peritoneal dialysis. And this is essentially the no needle technique for having dialysis. Many people think of the needles in the clinics where you sit down and you're hooked up to the machine and it runs through your blood. With peritoneal dialysis, you have a procedure where a tube is put into your belly, put into your abdomen, and you connect that tube to a bag of solution. The solution goes in, it gets into your abdomen, and then it pulls the toxins into that same space. And then you dump it, basically. You release it from that same tube, and that's your waste for dialysis. So there's no needles. You typically do it every day, and your doctor will give you a prescription about how often you do it. It's very important to follow your nutrition, or sorry, your dialysis prescription, because that is replacing what once was 24/7 kidney function. So your dialysis will not be 24/7. We're trying to find a balance of getting enough blood cleaning, but not making it completely overtake your life. So please, to everybody who is in dialysis, please follow your treatment plan as close as possible. It is there for a life sustaining purpose for you to help you feel your best. So with peritoneal dialysis, some of the biggest things, number one, a lot more protein. With CKD, with our people who are lower kidney function trying to prevent dialysis, the lower protein diet, or the low or very low protein diets, those are going to be really, really helpful. But in dialysis, the treatment of dialysis actually moves some of the protein out. It removes it, it eliminates it, so you need to replace some of it. That means a much higher protein diet. So you'll want to be focusing on a lot more proteins, and it is going to feel like a 180 if you were doing that low protein diet. It's going to feel very, very strange and different, but it is very helpful because you're going to use that protein for your energy. Now, your potassium with PD usually is not restricted. That's another benefit of peritoneal dialysis. Hemodialysis has some more potassium restrictions. Peritoneal does not typically have as many potassium restrictions. In fact, you might have to eat a lot more potassium. You might be encouraged to eat potatoes, avocado, tomatoes, because you
Mm.
need more potassium. This is one of those big differences in the different types of dialysis treatments, and one of the reasons I really think PD is a great option. So there's some of the difference right off the bat. Sodium is something you really want to be careful with because of the risk of fluid retention. And then additionally, phosphorus. We've talked a lot about phosphorus. It is incredibly difficult to manage in peritoneal dialysis. It is not cleaned as thoroughly as the hemodialysis cleans it. So there's different pros and cons for the different types of dialysis treatments. And phosphorus is a bigger challenge. So you'll want to be really, really careful, read your labels, look for anything that has added phosphates. And my recommendation is to avoid those as best as possible, because with peritoneal dialysis, phosphorus is a challenge. I would say about 60% of my patients would struggle with phosphorus control in
Mm.
peritoneal dialysis.
And how do I find phosphorus in the label? What do I look for?
Ah,
Because
here
it's
you
a
go.
sneaky snake.
It's sneaky. You don't see it in the actual nutrition facts numbers. It's very, very few times will you see phosphorus 80 milligrams or something like that. You want to look in the ingredient list. So you want to look underneath or next to all the numbers. You want to look for the words, and anything that's PHOS, anything that has phos, like tricalcium phosphate or phosphoric acid, those are added phosphates. Those are highly, highly absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream, and can cause high phosphorus levels, which don't feel like anything in the moment. You might just see a high phosphorus level in your blood test results and think, oh, okay, dang. But it accumulates, it adds up over time, and down the road, it causes really, really bad, painful, uncomfortable, deathly issues. So it's something to be very aware of and prevent down the road. This is a whole other thing about prevention of complications with CKD.
All right, great question here from Mark. He asked for, says aloha. So I'm guessing he's in Hawaii, which you were at last before you
Yeah.
moved here to the States. Does alpha lipoic acid help in slowing kidney disease, or is it just a myth? And then he has a second question. Are egg whites considered better animal protein?
Okay. So ALAs, those are a type of fat. I don't know of any research off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to look it up. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. And I do this a lot in our Plant Powered Kidneys course when we do these Q and A's. And I know stuff. I don't know all the stuff. So I'm going to have to do my
Well, and data
research.
changes as more research comes out. It's
Oh,
always great to
it
look it
it
up.
yeah, it really, really does. Right away, I'm seeing things that there's no evidence for it, but I'll have to do a little bit more of a dive into it. Um, it looks it looks like it could be potentially helpful for people on dialysis, which we've talked about here before, that nutrition research is a baby science, baby research, and then nutrition into CKD is even more baby. And a lot of that type of research is done on people on dialysis, which, as I just went through, dialysis is very different from CKD. So we can't look just at research when it comes to even people with dialysis and say across the board, this is something for everybody. Um, right, just off the top of what I'm looking at for the research, there's some that say maybe it could be helpful for people on dialysis, um, but they always wrap it up with more research needs to be done to prove this. So there's that. Um, the other question about the egg whites. So egg whites are a great source of protein. It is a complete protein. Um, but I will say that it's not something that I would advise for somebody, let's say stage 5, not on dialysis, because we're focusing on a low or very low protein diet there, and egg whites are a high source of protein. But for somebody on dialysis who does need to have protein, egg whites are an amazing source
Mhm.
of protein because egg whites have virtually no phosphorus in them. It's basically protein. So it is a really, really good source of protein for people to include and bump up their protein levels. So in that case, it's great. In early stages, I would say it's not terrible. It's not going to be the worst thing. It's definitely something that you can fit into your diet. But again, as the kidney disease progresses, if you have a lower amount, if you have that lower GFR, like 25%, even 30-ish% below that, you want to be careful with your protein. So it's not something I would typically advise just because it adds up so quickly in protein.
Fantastic. Mark also asked, and thank you, Mark, for the donations. Appreciate that. Helps cover all the hosting and serving costs and all that. He asked, he has a soy based protein shake, so 20 grams of protein per serving. Is that harder on the kidneys? He's stage 3.
That would be another thing that I would not typically recommend or gravitate towards because, again, people in early stages, later stages of CKD are not advised to have too much protein, and we get plenty of protein. The
Mm.
American diet is very, very high in protein. Go to any restaurant and look at any plate and tell me that you don't think that there's at least 20, 30, 40 grams of protein on
Well,
that
and when
plate.
you go shopping, everything is bragging about the
Mhm.
protein. It seems like they're trying to shove it into everything to have it appear healthy.
Yep, exactly, exactly. We are not lacking protein. We actually just did a post on Facebook and Instagram the other day about protein in vegetables. It's something that we don't really think about, but vegetables do provide protein. And if you're not accounting for that, you could very, very well be going over your protein guidelines for the day. So I typically don't find any reason for somebody in those in those like moderate stages of CKD to have a protein supplement. The only people I would say that could benefit from a protein supplement would be the people on dialysis who need a lot more protein. I'm talking about like 3 times as much protein. So we do have an article on plantpoweredkidneys.com all about protein supplements. You can go to our website and just search protein supplements, and hopefully, well, if everything's working, it'll pop up for you. But we have
The
a
search works
ton of
great. I use it
articles.
all the time. Like, oh,
Okay.
where what was the title of that blog? And I'll
Yeah.
search for something and boom, it pops up.
We have so many blogs. I think last I counted, we have like over 60 articles on there. Um, and we
And
have,
and they're huge. There's lots
yeah.
of detail. They have downloads sometimes and images and graphs and charts. Lots of great
Hmm.
information. Now, here's a question. Kathy says, can I drink green tea and hibiscus tea? So, any concerns with either of those?
I think green tea can be a great option. Remember, green tea does have caffeine, and there's a certain amount of caffeine that we want to stick to. We don't want to have too much. Usually, it's like equivalent for a couple cups of coffee a day. Green tea doesn't typically have as much caffeine as coffee does, but if you let the tea bag sit longer, it might have more caffeine because you're diffusing it longer. So be careful with green tea. It's just, yes, some is great, doesn't mean more is better. Hibiscus tea is generally okay. The caveat I always have with tea is the tea area in the grocery store is almost like the cereal aisle. Like it's getting bigger and bigger, and there are more and more options out there, and it gets more and more overwhelming, and they will add things in and check to they'll check for, you have to look for like additives, you have to look for that licorice that can be bad for blood pressure and
Mm.
potassium. Look for additives because they might add like certain sweeteners or preservatives, they might add things to the tea blends, especially if they're like a ready made type of tea. Those are really common to have, like phosphoric acid for example. So just make sure you're reading the back of the package, look at all the ingredients. Be careful with the ones that talk about any kind of detox or laxative effect.
Oh,
Those are not fun. Those are not good. Your body doesn't want that. So be very, very careful with the types of teas. If you're looking for just like a loose leaf green tea, then that's great. That can be a wonderful addition and a healthy addition to a renal diet. It doesn't have to be a super fancy green tea concoction that they've put all this stuff in.
I actually made some green tea this morning. Whenever
Yeah?
I have a busy day, because I'm kind of getting over a little something, and I was like, oh, I got a busy day at work. I need a little bit of a boost. And I go for green tea. It is my coffee, but I don't get it very often. Maybe it's probably been a couple months since I had it, but I always enjoy it. A little bit of honey, local
Yeah.
grown honey, because I have allergies, so that's helpful for that also to get the local
Mhm.
honey. Now,
Yeah.
Gloria has a question. What about artificial eggs, those liquid ones? Are they okay for people with CKD?
Um, there's quite a few brands that are out there now. The one that sticks that's like the top of my head right now because I had a conversation with a client about it not too long ago is the Just Egg. It's a newer brand that is vegan, um, but it does have phosphate additives, and it's quite expensive for being a an egg substitute. Um, I can't remember I can't remember what the main ingredient was, but I remember seeing phosphorus and I thought, well, why are we paying so much money for phosphate additives when you might end up paying more money for the copays of a medication to bring it down? It doesn't make sense to be adding all of this in. So there are plenty of those out there. Be sure to check the labels. And if you think about it, these egg substitute things are really quite processed. They put a lot of work and effort into any type of animal. Well, I'll make this a little more general too. Any type of animal meat substitution or animal protein substitution, they're doing a lot of work in the kitchen, a lot of baking and testing and trialing to figure out how to replicate it and make it as close to that original animal product, which oftentimes still means high protein, which is not going to be great. It could mean high sodium, also not great. It could be those additives. So in general, I always think of them as like a stepping stone. If you want to get away from animal meats, that can be a good option. But ultimately, the ultimate goal is to step away from those processed foods and look at using things like lentils and beans and jackfruit and nuts and seeds and all different kinds of things that you can use as a natural food source that can replace those more highly processed things.
Now, we have a few people asking about increasing their GFR. They want their labs to look better. What's your, how do you respond to that when someone comes to you and says, I want to increase my GFR? Because it's a very common question.
I mean, this is um this is just like opening the door to this warehouse that you're just like, okay, where do I start? You walk into Costco and you're like, now what? There are so many things to pick apart. And the challenge and the blessing, I want to say, with CKD is that there are so many nuances. There are so many different components for every person, that there is no one standard do this, do this, do this, do this, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this much, eat this much, eat this. There's no cookie cutter response. So, working with a dietitian, we need to do that full nutrition assessment. We need to look at your whole medical history. We need to look at your labs. We need to talk about the foods you've been eating, the foods you want to eat. We need to do the whole gambit in order to find out what's been going on. And then is when we can say, okay, based off of everything you told me, based off of everything your lab history is showing me, your medical history is showing me, here's the list of priorities. Here's where we want to start. This is our great opportunity, whether it's blood sugars, it's sodium, it's phosphorus, it's potassium, it's your pral, it's your bicarb, it's your thyroid. I mean, I could go on and on and on because there are so many different things that we can be looking at. So the GFR is the end point of, we do all these things and then we look to see if it has improved the GFR. We can never promise it, because if we could promise it, then we would have cured kidney disease. But we can basically check the boxes of all the different components that we're looking at that can influence GFR, focus on those, hone those down to a science, get them all nice and neat and tidy for you, and then look at how your kidney function is doing. And I think even our students from the Plant Powered Kidneys course, our private clients, um, anyone who's gone through and worked with us in some capacity can probably speak to their own experience about, maybe there was something that they focused on because that was a thing for them, and then they saw results. That was something just tonight in the Plant Powered Kidneys Facebook group, that one of our students had shared their success of going through the course and paying attention to what they needed to pay attention to, and their GFR improved because they learned what was best for them. So this is a really long answer because it's not a simple answer. It's a very complicated question. But hopefully that gives you ideas of, just the idea of all of the opportunities that are available to you. It's about talking with your healthcare team, working with them, finding a dietitian to help you, and really narrowing down on that to figure out what's going to be best for you.
Yeah, and from my own personal experience, when I was first diagnosed, all I was focused on was lowering creatinine and getting my GFR up, because the creatinine is used to calculate it. And every doctor told me, stop, James. Don't focus on that. We need to get your iron up because you got anemia. We got to get your sodium down. We got to get you exercising more. They told me, focus on living healthy and getting all my labs into the normal range, because they were all over the place, and to ignore the creatinine and GFR. And it was very difficult for me to do that. And I didn't want to do that at first. But as I've done that and now I'm used to it, I want to know what my GFR is, but I don't care because it fluctuates now in this range. What I care about is the symptoms. How do I feel? If my GFR drops 4 points, but I still feel great, I'm okay. Now, if the next time in 3 months it drops 4 more points, I'll be a little bit worried. Like, hey, doc, we're trending downward. What are we going to do? I got to do what, But it really, they told me, focus on living healthy, eating healthy, being active, and that in itself would reduce the burden placed on my kidneys, because I can't undo the damage. And that way they could better keep up with me. And that's what happened. And that's what got my GFR from 8 up into the lower 30s. And now it bounces around between 29 and probably 34. It just bounces around in there. I am perfectly happy because I feel great and I'm out there doing all the things that I want to do.
Yeah, and that's the best way to look at it. You really hit the nail on the head there, James, with, it's about focusing on the symptoms, it's focusing on how you feel, not just looking at the numbers. The numbers provide information for us, but at the end of the day, it's not the numbers that we're caring about. We're caring about you. We want you to feel well. And so that's what we're going to focus on.
And Olivia had asked a question about drinks, different kinds of teas and stuff. And Olivia, I posted a link. I'll put it right here on the screen also. I posted a link to a discussion that Jen and I had about different drinks for kidney patients. And in that video, if you go below it, there is a link to her blog which has even more information of different drinks. And I actually remember this because I pull it up quite often. This one in the milk, all the different milks.
Yeah.
I go to that one, and it tells you like, oh, the phosphorus, the calcium, all the things on these different drinks. It kind of recommends, okay, you'll stick with these ones, and then there's also these as an occasional, almost like a treat if you wanted to have one of these. So I put the link on the screen and in the chat, Olivia, so you can go there and check that out. Jen's blogs are just amazing. So much information there. Definitely encourage you to click that link and go to her blog. Now, are there any questions that stand out to you? Because there are so many of them. There was another one I wanted to find. Oh, it's from Mark again.
I lost track. Honestly, I was like way up and then it's like new comments and it brought
And
me shooting
there
back
are
down.
almost across all the platforms, we're just shy of 200 people watching us live. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, everybody. Help get the video liked more. Give it a thumbs up
This
while we're.
it
I
really
usually don't
does
ask for those.
I mean, just by you guys liking this video, it helps other people get this information because
Exactly.
we don't need to go into all the stuff about YouTube, but YouTube sees that you guys like it and it says, hey, other people that are looking for kidney help, they should watch this too. So just being supportive of this is going to be spreading the message. And that's been something that we have been talking about a lot with Plant Powered Kidneys is sharing information so that more people are aware because you, well, people can lose up to 90% of their kidney function without experiencing any symptoms. And if you have CKD, your family members are at increased risk of CKD. So they could be experiencing CKD issues without even realizing it. So we really are pushing the knowledge. We're pushing this sharing of information for people to understand that it's important to get these numbers checked. And many times, and I'm sure a lot of you watching, you look back and you see your labs and you see, oh, this number was high or this number was low. Why didn't they say anything about it? Or, we don't always remember from before our older labs. And we look back, we're like, wait a minute, this has been in my records for years. And only now I'm finding out, or only now they're talking to me about it. This is why we talk about, looking at the numbers and sharing this information so people can be they can be more aware of what to look for because really knowledge is power. It's so cliche, but it really, really is.
Yep. And let me bring up Mark's question here. And he just donated another $25. Mark,
Oh, that is
that is
so
so
nice.
awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, that is the biggest donation to date in over 3 years of doing this.
Wow, that's really nice, Mark.
Mark asked, he was clarifying about the protein shake that he was drinking. He does it as a substitute for breakfast because he's very busy. And
Gotcha.
it's 10 to 20 grams of protein too much for a meal? That's the first part of his question.
Okay. So in general, we're starting at the general guidelines are about 0.8 grams of protein for every kilogram of your body weight. So you take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, and that gives you your weight in kilograms, and then you multiply it by 0.8, and that's the general guidelines for protein. Now, for CKD, we're looking at underneath that amount for protection, for kidney protection, but not too low. If you go too low, that's not kidney protective. There is a fine balance of how much protein you should be getting. You don't want to go too low because that can cause malnutrition, that can cause further kidney damage. So be careful with going too low. If you go too high, that causes kidney damage too. I know this is just me being like the bearer of bad news right now, but it is really, really important to understand that there is there's such a thing as too much, there's such a thing as not enough. With 10 to 20 grams, I've had patients who have to keep their protein intake to 30 grams per day, 30 grams for the entire day. And
Ooh,
that
that's tight.
sounds exactly. So it sounds like, oh, maybe that could be manageable if I'm doing 10 grams for my protein or for my breakfast or something. But again, protein adds up super quick. It's in a lot more foods than we realize, and it can be a challenge. So I wish I could say, yes, for sure, this is too much or not enough. We don't know unless we have a full assessment to dive in and say, okay, this is how much protein you need, and this is the percent of protein for your entire day. Um, that would be like more of that deep dive information for you from getting that consult with a dietitian who would give you those exact numbers.
Mhm.
That's the benefit of working privately. You work one-on-one with a dietitian, you get exact numbers for whatever you're looking for. They will give you that exact guideline. In any other context, we don't have that capacity. So I am cautiously saying it sounds like it's okay for stage three, given that men are usually a little bit bigger than women. They usually have a little bit more of that protein wiggle room. If it was a woman, or maybe if you're a man that's just smaller in stature, that might be too much protein. Again, I don't know exactly, and we also need to account for the rest of the protein in your day.
Mhm.
How much protein are you getting total in your entire day, and where does that protein shake fall in? One of the things I know, James, that you like as well, we always love recommending Chronometer for a food
Yes.
journal, a food tracker. This is something that is incredibly helpful because you log your food and it spits out that information so that you know how much protein you're getting. And you can even share this information with your healthcare providers who can then further decipher that information and tell you where you're at. And they can help you set your goals too.
Now, the second part of his question is how much caffeine is kind of too much? He doesn't like drinking water. I understand that. Believe me, I add fruits to mine. He drinks a lot of green tea and black tea. So,
So I've got to pull up the exact number because I know I have it, not off the top of my head.
yeah, we did a show about caffeine, didn't
We
we? Or at
talked about,
least we've
yeah,
talked about it.
coffee. Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
coffee.
I thought I was right. I should have gone with it, but it's okay. Trust but verify. Up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is generally safe for most people. Okay. Over 500 milligrams per day, that's where you can have some problems. You can have, I don't know if you guys have ever had that, too much caffeine, you start getting those shakes, you start feeling a little on edge. That's not good. That's your body saying, okay, we're a little too wired now. So we're going to need some time to calm down. So you want to be careful with that. That is equivalent to like 2 to 3 cups of coffee per day, depending on how strong the coffee is brewed, where you get it, what's in it, all that kind of stuff. So, keep that in mind, but about 400 milligrams is going to be okay. If you're ever curious about, what too much caffeine looks like, take a look at some of those energy drink labels. We talk about label reading. They've got some pretty hefty doses of caffeine in there too.
Yep. And talking about protein, is it better to get your protein from plant sources?
Absolutely. One of the benefits that plants have over animal proteins is that plant proteins are, one, easier for the kidneys to be managing, easier for the kidneys to digest, take care of, but also they provide so many other nutrients that are also kidney protective. We've got phytochemicals, we've got vitamins, we've got minerals, we've got fiber, which is incredibly important. We talk about the benefits of fiber for our kidney health. Plant proteins are phenomenal. And if you're not entirely plant based, that's okay. We recommend at least half of your proteins come from plant protein sources. So if you can try to work towards that half and then maybe do a little bit more, maybe go to 60% or 70 or 80%. A lot of our clients find that once they start making that transition, it gets easier
Mhm.
to not only add in those plant proteins, but it gets easier to not have the animal proteins. It turns into this like, oh, I didn't even realize, like, I didn't miss it like I thought I would. And in part, it's your body adapting to this different way of eating. But also, I mean, it's telling you that it's enjoying what it's getting, it's helping you feel better. And that positive reinforcement makes you want to continue to eat that way.
Mhm. And my plates from before I was diagnosed to now are complete 180s. I used to have like the big meat and all the carbs, and the plants were just some toppings like
Mhm.
lettuce and tomato and maybe a sliver of onion and some pickles on a burger. Now it's almost all plant-based fruits and veggies, um, nuts, things like that, and just a little bit
Yeah.
of animal protein, like some chicken breast or something. Pretty much that is my meat: chicken breast and occasionally some tuna. Oh,
Hmm.
that's my trying to be a little seafoody because I don't like fish, but I'll eat tuna.
Yeah. Well,
I
I mean,
I still gotta
it's a
try
great
salmon.
example.
Everyone says it's a good one.
Hey, I mean, eventually, I'm still trying to get you to get on the mushroom train. So
I know I still gotta make a mushroom. I still gotta do that.
it's okay. I'll wait.
Now Tracy says her son is CKD stage 2, so it's very early. Very active with soccer. Would someone like him possibly have more protein? Struggling with this. The portion of protein looks so small after a competitive soccer game. She knows you can't say for sure, but for someone young, and she told us he is 16.
Okay, so this is, to be honest, a challenge. This is something that's really hard because now we're looking at two specialties of the renal side, but also pediatrics. Pediatric nutrition is a specialty in of itself, and then adding that renal layer on top is definitely tough. I work with adults. I don't work with pediatrics. Even though 16, I'm sure doesn't feel like a kid, it's still considered pediatric nutrition because they're a growing body, very different nutrition parameters. So I wouldn't feel comfortable saying anything that I have not particularly studied enough. I've had some pediatric patients on dialysis, but not with CKD. So my recommendation would be to connect with a pediatric dietitian who then can look into the renal side of things for you. The pediatric would be, in my opinion, would be that level of care that you would want to be looking for. So talk with the pediatrician and see if you can get connected with a pediatric dietitian who would be able to maneuver that with you and go through those recommendations, go through those guidelines. The good news is, like we've said in the beginning, early stages, you have a ton of opportunities. So this is a really, really good time to capitalize on those opportunities, find out what you can do to keep the kidney function up, because there's going to be a lot of things that are possible, even with staying in a competitive sport and staying in soccer, which is really exciting for kids to be in those sports. So that's awesome.
My dad, or well, my dad, my brother, my son just signed up for soccer.
Oh,
He's
cool.
playing basketball right now. He would love to do basketball. I'm just worried he's going to get hurt. But I love running the soccer, just running all around. All of us parents, we get to sit on the sidelines and chit chat. I like that part.
Yeah.
Now, a few people have asked this question, and I'm going to bring it up here from Rebecca. What's the best type of peanut butter to consume?
So, a few things I would recommend is looking for one that doesn't have added oils. Peanut butter in of itself should be very, very simple. It should be
Mhm.
peanuts. It should be peanuts that are blended. You could even make it at home using a good food processor. You just have to let it go long enough for it to finish blending up the peanuts. There are a lot of peanut butters out there and they'll have added oils, they'll have added salt, they'll even have added sugar. My husband was telling me that he had bought a peanut butter and he didn't realize that it was sweet until he opened it up and put it on toast, and he was kind of like, "Whoa, this is strange." And it was some kind of like vanilla, I don't know, some special one, but he wasn't looking close enough at the labels. So you really need to pay attention to the labels. The ingredient list, the shorter the better, especially in the case of peanut butter. It shouldn't have any added things to it. It really doesn't need it. Um, and that would be my go-to recommendation is just look for something that just has peanuts.
Yeah, and usually the ones I buy say natural, and I look
Hmm.
around and I make sure ingredients it'll say peanuts, salt, and then I just look at how much sodium there is, and I pick one that's very low sodium because high blood pressure and low kidney function. I like adding salt to my food to salt to
Right.
taste. I don't want it already in it, so I
Yeah,
go with the
exactly.
lowest I can find.
Exactly. You can always customize it yourself. There's no issue with that. The challenge is when they take away that option for you, and then you have to backtrack and figure out how to cut salt out in somewhere else.
So here's an interesting thing about that. I found a no sodium added split pea soup at some fancy store around here, and I bought it. and it wasn't like low sodium. This was like no sodium added.
Literally zero
And
salt.
and of course, it tasted awful. But I
Yeah.
added just a little bit and
Hmm.
boom, it
Hmm.
tasted great. I didn't have to add that much. It was very, very little. And I mixed it up and I taste like, oh, that was just the right amount. It was so much better to add it myself because every time it's in a can, if they've already added it, there's too much. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
preservative.
I can't even tell you the last time I've had canned soup because I just don't like the taste. I think they always taste really, really gross to me. But it's so easy to make soup at home. You can literally take whatever vegetables you have, throw it in a pot, add some water or add some low sodium broth to it, add a bean or even add a grain, farro or amaranth or rice or quinoa. You can do so many things and just make a really, it's kind of like a salad. You have your base and you put in whatever you want to it and you go from there. So it's really, really easy to just kind of put it all together. But canned soups are incredibly high in salt. And so I can imagine, we're used to that high saltiness, even though we don't think it tastes as
Mhm.
salty, we're used to it. So when we
Yeah.
taste something that has zero salt added, then we're like, "Oh my gosh, where's the salt?" Then you notice how salty the other one is because, the other one doesn't have any.
Yeah, and I've gotten used to low sodium at the highest, and woo,
Mhm.
that was bad. And I don't know how I ended up with split pea soup. I started trying to find a local restaurant that made French onion soup, and I was driving from
Mm.
restaurant to restaurant, and none of them had it. I was like, well, maybe Panera has it. They were closed, shut down. I was like, oh, darn it. So there was a health store. I thought, I'll go in there and maybe I can make some healthy French onion soup. And I ended up with split pea soup. But it was delicious.
So
I loved
close.
it. It was better than going and buying a ribeye and a baked potato and all that stuff at
For
Chili's or
sure,
something.
for sure. Yeah.
All right, so we are getting close to the top of the hour. Are there
Oh my
any of the
gosh.
questions that catch your mind or catch your eye?
Let me go back up. Okay, well, I can't answer it off the top of my head, but there's a question about sodium content of pink Himalayan salt, and I'm just gonna say stay tuned because we do have information coming out all about salt. Okay, let me get back up here.
I'll tell you, I, in the beginning, did so much research. I nerded out on
Mhm.
salt. Um, and there are slight differences in the salts, the sodium content plus trace minerals. But in the takeaway after doing all this research, I mean like nerdy research, was just limit sodium. Pick one you like
Yeah.
and just be careful with it. The differences were so minor. And I do like pink Himalayan sea salt in a grinder. My doctor
Mhm.
got me on the grinder so that I have to forcefully grind it so I'm aware of how much I'm using and not just tipping it and it pours out like a
Yeah.
waterfall.
It's
Makes it
like you hear
easier to
salt,
control.
salt,
Yeah, and you
salt,
know it. You're
salt.
seeing it and you're
I did see a question that came up about things to do for low iron levels, which you mentioned. That was something that you had also kind of gone through too, James. Um,
Yes.
so one of the things that the kidneys do is it helps with creating red blood cells. It makes a hormone that helps make red blood cells. So when there's kidney damage and it can't make this hormone, then red blood cells can't be made. So that's when people start noticing a drop in their hemoglobin. But you can do things in your diet to help increase the amount of iron in your diet, which helps with that, with the red blood cells, which helps with anemia. We do have an entire article that includes a list of iron rich foods. So, again, you know, I would say when in doubt, we probably have an article about it on the website. Um, but in this case, we definitely have one that covers the different food groups and those foods that are rich in iron. And this is one of those articles that has a free download, a free PDF download. And I don't think
And I
um
just put a link to it in the description in the chat, everybody. So if you
okay.
click that, and then there's and yeah, there you had the we did this show not that long ago. It feels like It's hard to remember, but I remember all the
Time doesn't mean
topics.
anything. After COVID, time means nothing.
It
Like,
was on August 17th we talked about it.
okay. Um, so yeah,
Now,
there
are
are
strawberries higher in iron?
no.
Someone
Um,
thought they were.
no, but strawberries are a source of vitamin C, and that can help with iron absorption. So if you
That's
eat
right.
strawberries with something that has iron, like black beans, for example, or I mean, watermelon has iron. So if you eat the other sources, then the strawberries will help the absorption of the iron. Another thing you can do really simple is cook with a cast iron skillet
Hmm.
because the iron from that cast iron, especially if you're doing something like anything that kind of simmers or sits or cooks in the pan for a while, it'll get some of that iron. If you don't have a cast iron, you can use the Lucky Iron Fish, or I think they have like a Lucky Clover one too for like a plant option. And you throw that into a pot that you're cooking a soup or a stew or something with some liquid in it, and it puts iron into the food as well. So you can use that as well as another option to help increase iron in your diet. But I will say, just like with other things related to the renal diet, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. You can have too much iron, it can become bad for your blood. So do not think that you need to just go out and consume all of these things that have food that have iron. You really want to be cautious. You want to be looking at what you're eating, looking at your chronometer, looking at your food journal or something like that, looking at your labs, talking with your healthcare professional. Don't just go overboard and do all the things all of a sudden. Not only could it be harmful, but you could just get overwhelmed and it might not be the best solution for you in the long run.
Yeah, and someone asked, had I ever mentioned where I was from? You're probably new. Welcome. Yes, I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, we went to the Super Bowl this year. Woo! Great game. Didn't win, but hey, we were there, and that was awesome.
That's cool.
Yes, I traveled. My dad's a retired Air Force, so I've traveled all around the world. Lived in Germany for a while, different other countries, different parts of the United States, California. Came to Cincinnati from Seattle about 5 years ago now. Kind of a local. Any other questions? We're about 2 minutes before the top of the hour.
There's been a few questions I've seen about fish. Um, so uh, I'll say that there are opportunities that some people can have fish. Again, it's an animal protein. It's going to be a higher source of protein. So in those earlier stages, if it's something that you want to include a few times, it can be a great option. I mean, fish do have healthy fats. Something that I want you all to remember as well, though, is that meat sources, um, they also have potassium. So we don't want to forget that. And we do, of course, have an article about potassium in meats. Um, but it is quite shocking to look at the amount. And I remember the video we did for that too, James, where we were looking into the information
Oh yeah,
and
that was
the
shocking to me.
yeah, yeah, it was very surprising because people don't usually associate potassium with meat. We always think about those other culprits like bananas or avocados or something. But foods that they're protein foods or are animal proteins, just like us, we have potassium in our bodies. Animals have potassium in their bodies as well. So it only makes sense that they're going to have potassium in their meat too. So be careful if you have a potassium restriction. Don't think that you can or you should cut out fruits and vegetables and eat more meat or something like that because you might develop more potassium issues because you're losing the nutrients from fruits and vegetables because meat doesn't have fiber. It doesn't help with our gut health like fruits and vegetables do. So that's definitely something to consider. We can't just look at one nutrition component of a food group and forget about the rest of the things that it has or doesn't have.
And we need to look at the amount. Some you may think it adds up quickly if you're eating larger portions. Yeah, someone's saying log your food, you will learn so much. Oh, that is so
Yeah,
so true. That's one
it
of those
is.
apps like is it Chronometer? I always say the name wrong. Either way, use it. Chronometer.
Yeah, I
I'm
take
going to reach
chronometers.
out to them and ask them, how do you pronounce it? Because I'm always talking about it. And for some reason, I call it chronometer, which is time. So that's probably not right because chrono.
I mean, it could be, but yeah, we'll have to find out. Oh shoot, what was I gonna say? No, I forgot. Come on,
I
that's
was
all
kind of
right.
hinting about portion control or portion sizes and all adding up. And we are now
I don't
past
know.
the top of our hour. So we have even more people watch. I want to encourage, please give the video a thumbs up. I don't ask very often for that. That would be fantastic. It helps with YouTube so much. Um, Believe me, it helps a lot to give the video a thumbs up. Just boop, click. Do you want to wrap up with any best wishes or final tips for kidney health or kidney health month, National Kidney Month?
I mean, we're just getting started, and I'm really excited for what March has to offer. But I will say one of the biggest things, and James, you are a great example of this. One of the biggest things is your mentality and your attitude. There are a lot of people out there who will be harping on the negatives, who will be focusing on the things that can't be done or shouldn't be done or whatever the case is. But we really need to think about opportunities. We need to think about protecting the kidney function, keeping kidneys healthy. Think about it in that kind of mindset. And I really am such a firm believer that that mindset will make a huge shift in so many things as you move forward and making these changes. Focus on the positive, focus on the things that you get to do, that you want to do, and it will take you so far in life.
Awesome. And I will be back tomorrow night with Dr. Rosansky. We got 2 nights in a row here at Dadvice TV this week. And then next week will be a brand new doctor. He was going to be on last night, but I was under the weather. And you guys didn't want me coughing and sneezing, and it was all stopped up. It would not have been a good chat. So
And
we
you have
pushed him
Shelby
out to
coming up
next week.
too.
Yeah, Shelby's coming up. We got all sorts of great stuff every month.
Yeah.
Lots of great information right here on Dadvice TV to help you better understand how to live great while you happen to have kidney disease. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Jen. And I'll see all the rest of you in the next video. Bye, everyone.